Hi guys, welcome to another edition of Future Considerations, the show where we debate things in sports that could have happened. I'm Julian. Ash is back with me for yet another episode. You just can't escape the punishment, huh?
No, I can't. I love you too much.
I love you too, Ash. I don't love this moment as much, though. So in 2015, the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots did battle in the Super Bowl, and they didn't run the ball on the 1 yard line, and Malcolm Butler is a hero, makes the interception. New England Patriots win a Super Bowl.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
I'm still very angry about that day.
Wait, are you a big Seahawks fan?
I'm not even a Seahawks fan.
Okay.
That's the craziest thing, too. I just can't stand to see incompetence. And I still think it's incompetence. I still think it's something that a lot of people feel. So for today's episode, we are going to debate, would Marshawn Lynch have scored that ball at the 1 yard line if he was there? I'm going to start this first, Ash, because I'm so angry about this. Thank you for moving that the way that it is. Marshawn would have scored the ball on the 1 yard line. Okay. Marshawn Lynch was at the time, and even to this extent today, so the baddest man on the planet on the goal yard on that line. You give him the ball, trucks through the O-line, he would have scored. With the amount of time left on the clock, it actually would have been in the New England's best interest, to allow the score. They come up the field with the amount of time that they have, and we see from there. But Marshawn Lynch should have scored. And even if they don't want to give it to Marshawn, even if there's the whole, fine, we don't want Marshawn Lynch to be the man, give like a bootleg sneak to Russell Wilson or something. Why are you throwing the ball?
Okay, so you say that he would have scored on the second down, and if not, it would have made sense for the Pats to let him in.
100%.
I agree. The Pats should have just been like, go, go, go.
Just fine, whatever.
I think it makes sense in theory, basically, for them to throw it because they technically kill time and they have 2 more attempts to get in. I think the reason why Pete Carroll did this was to put Marshawn, to put him in his place, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the idea is if Russell throws a touchdown, then he's a hero. He's a good guy. And if somebody else gets the score, it's a team effort. But if Lynch brings it in, then it's just he has a bigger head. He already doesn't get along with the coach. And I think this is when an ego of a coach gets in the way of what's good for the whole team.
I don't get that. So it's not a team effort if Marshawn scores? Who's blocking in front of him? The O-line is. It's still a team effort if he scores.
So much of coaching, so much of organizational behavior in the sports context is about sending a message, sending signals, conditioning people. I think that's what that was really about. Now, it's also, let's just give credit to Butler. I think that's the issue. To say this was incompetence is maybe half of it. It's a bit unfair. I think ultimately it was just a hell of a defensive play.
I think so. And I think you even see on the play, New England saw that play coming, and they had practiced that play as well. So on the part of the New England Patriots, of course, great move on their part. But for Seattle, they should have scored.
But I think the idea was everybody expected them to run the ball. That's why it's only a foolish move in hindsight because it didn't work. If it would have worked, it would have been genius because there probably would have been a receiver somewhere free if they wouldn't have taken that kind of, the specific tactic was a bit risky. But I think the concept of throwing it to somebody further out would have made a lot of sense. You see that play all the time. Either way, it's done with. That's life.
If Seattle wins that game, is this the makings of a dynasty?
They'd won it 2 years before when they destroyed the Broncos.
They destroyed them.
Yeah, they won the year before.
Yeah.
They won the year before. It's the Broncos that came back to win the year after. Look, I think technically if by dynasty you mean 2 Super Bowls, that is a dynasty nowadays with free agency and all that. Sure, possibly. Look, I think whenever a team wins again, you start to get a lot of other players in the support staff that actually start to get plucked and recruited away through free agency. Mm-hmm. Anything could have happened. I know Lynch says it's a good thing that he did not win because that's what led him to leave and end up in Oakland.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Who knows? Maybe eventually the coach, Pete Carroll, signed somewhere else. I think the Panthers were starting to get stronger. Cam Newton was still fairly young earlier on when the Seahawks won. I think eventually you could have argued that the Panthers would have knocked off the Seahawks and they would have emerged. I think nowadays it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Do you consider 2 Super Bowl wins to be a dynasty?
No, I think a dynasty is like 3-4 Super Bowls, but I still think that Seattle would have been in contention to get a 3rd or 4th one, just because I feel that with the team that they had in place, they all would have realized, hey, you know what, we're winning these chips and we can go out and get more Super Bowls. After they lost that Super Bowl, that's when you started hearing all the infighting with with the coaching staff and their preferential treatment of Russell Wilson and the defense. When you start winning those games, that doesn't seem to be a problem in some locker rooms, and I feel like that wouldn't have been an issue. Also, Seattle, they got rid of one of their offensive linemen, trying to think, you know what, let's get Jimmy Graham in. And since then, our offensive line has not been the same. You see Russell Wilson still doing his disappearing act, just trying to be, Houdini in the pocket now with the offensive line that's in place. But that might not have been the case if they said, you know what, let's keep the offensive line as it is and let's make it better. And then they would have probably won with those pieces.
I think the bottom line of that play was it was more of a negative hit to Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson's legacy than Lynch's. I think Lynch, if anything, it almost made him into this mythical figure.
He was already
already a mythical figure. He had the nickname Beast Mode for a reason. But I think the fact that I feel like he was not just untarnished, but it just made him, it was kind of like, obviously he would have scored it. It was like, you should have given it to him. What were you thinking?
So last point here, very quickly, we're running out of time. Do we remember the game as well if Seattle scores?
No, I think you would remember it because it was the second back-to-back championship. You would have remembered it for Brady's record before winning, I think, the fourth and fifth Super Bowl, not being as good. I think there would have been more people questioning it, but absolutely not. It would have been forgotten largely.
I don't think so. I think Jermaine Kearse, that catch just before the Seattle miscue, that puts it in the same way we remember the David Tyree game where he made the catch, the first Giants Super Bowl. Mario Manningham, when the Giants won their second one, bit of the same deal. In fact, after the Jermaine Kearse catch, NBC did like a side-by-side view of all three of those legendary catches, all against Tom Brady.
Okay, speaking of legend, I know we're out of time. Very quickly,
yes.
What was the more legendary defensive move? Kevin Dyson of the Titans being, I'm aging myself here by calling them the Oilers, by the way, of the Titans getting stopped around the 1 yard line, or the Butler interception?
That's actually a really tough one, but I think I'm gonna go with the Butler one. I think because of the fact that Seattle, everyone knows they probably should have ran the ball, and even if it's something that everyone saw coming, I don't think everyone would have blamed them for it. But the fact that it's an interception, I think how wild that situation was, I don't know. I put the Butler one over. But I think the Dyson one is amazing too.
The Dyson one is amazing, but my final point is the mere fact, because he caught it and he had a lot more yards to make up by getting there, that it was kind of the mere fact that Dyson got that close was impressive. I agree. I think the Butler one was just out of this world because it was a fait accompli that the Hawks should have won it.
Shout out Mike Jones, who actually made the stop on that play. And with that, this concludes another edition of Future Considerations. Ash, thanks so much for doing this again. As always, you were a valiant in defeat, I think. If you have any suggestions on what we should debate on a future episode of Future Considerations, please write them in the comment section below. For Ash, I'm Julian saying so long. We'll see you guys next time.